everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. This is our horror movie show. We talk about horror movies, as that previous sentence would imply. Tim, how are you feeling? How are you? What's up? What's happening? What's happening?
God, I wish I knew. So out of the loop. I don't know. Very tired. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but always tired. It's kind of my thing these days.
Well, stick around for the tired man.
That's my horror movie character. I'll take a nap on you.
I'll take a nap on you. You need to spin it, Tim, because saying you're tired sounds like you're miserable. What you need to do is to hype up the audience. Spin it as you're loopy. That's what I always do. I never say I'm tired. I always say I'm loopy. And then they get excited because you're going to get the random nonsense.
Well, I mean, people will get that from me, so...
Regardless, that's true. You've had the best breakfast possible. You've got full of fiber. You're awake. You're alert. You've had some fruit. No shitty sugars to keep you down. Or, nothing like that.
The hell is this fitness talk? Have you been reading some? I don't know, diet, energy thing?
The point I was getting to is that even when you're in that condition, which I don't know if you ever are, because I assume your diet's terrible, because yeah.
I think maybe a year in high school, maybe I was like that, but
for that 1 year, yeah. But my point is that even when you're in that condition where you're supposed to be you're most bright and alert, you're still dropping nonsense and stupid things. So
thank you.
It's just who you are.
And you can't change that no matter how hard you try.
Oh, I've tried. I've tried hard, people.
Ugh, hard people. Okay.
Comma, hard, comma, people.
Okay. All right.
What are we talking about today? Tim, what are we talking about?
Phantasm, boy.
Phantasm 4 Oblivion is the movie we're talking about, because we, of course, October we did Phantasm, we did Phantasm 2 a month or two later, we had Phantasm 3 I think back in January, February, and here we are, we're finally getting back to this franchise with number 4 Oblivion. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do, and we'll give you warning somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers, but here we are, we're going to talk about it. This is the Phantasm movie where they fill up half the runtime by using deleted scenes from the original film, because the original cut of the original film was 4.5 hours long, which is ridiculous for a horror movie. And it's really funny when you look at the movie now, because first movie, fantastic film, fantastic Phantasm is what I sometimes refer to it as.
Sure.
It's 90 minutes long. They had so much extra footage that they didn't use, and they use a lot of it here. And last movie, I mean, I guess I kind of need to spoil a little bit of the last movie to set up the plot of this one. Mike is he's the tall man's trying to convert him, so he's having this weird spiritual journey, and Reggie has a subplot which doesn't really relate to anything until he runs into the characters again towards the end, and that's the movie. That is the basic premise of Phantasm 4 Oblivion.
I just want to say real quick, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I, as is tradition, I did no research after watching this movie. So I was going to ask you, what did they just, were these deleted scenes or something, or
did they just have you see these scenes and it's Mike is 13 again, and you're like, this is just deleted scenes. This is all stuff.
The kid looks way too much like him. It's unmistakable. There's no way you can be oh, is that a new kid?
Reggie, Tall Man, all of them look younger. They're all back to the age they were in the original film. So it makes. I mean, it's great that they had the footage to do these flashbacks, because it's it's perfect because they're actually all the age they were. Because keep in mind, this came out in 1998. This was 19 years after the first film. So
and
they've all aged
5 years before Hellboy. Yeah. Okay.
What the fuck is that going to be in?
Just for context people.
Was Hellboy 2003? Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
I think it was 2004.
2004.
I don't know. I think you're wrong. I think it was 2004. I don't know why I know that, but I think I know that.
I know I saw it in high school, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because you're old. My cat just got my camera down a little bit. I'm just going to adjust that. Audio people don't care about me adjusting my camera because they don't see shit anyway, but here we are. So
it helps for the mental image.
So Phantasm 4 Oblivion. We'll talk more about what the flashbacks are and stuff and go on. There's one in particular that the dialogue works so well for what they're doing with it. It's insane that it just kind of fits. It's almost like they had that scene and went, what can we write around this? And then it worked because of it. But more on that later. I have to ask a question. So just to recap our feelings in the previous films, Phantasm 1, basically a masterpiece, right? We're both pretty much on board with that. Phantasm 2, phantasmic sequel. It's the aliens to Phantasm's Alien, and it's an action-packed thrill ride. And I think we both agreed that 3 held up a little bit better than we thought it did. It's definitely the weakest of the 3 up to that point. But it did hold up a bit better. Like, you got the wisecracking kid, with the traps. Reggie's trying to find Mike, who's been kidnapped by the tall man. It was better than I remembered. I actually was still quite into it. So that's our opinions, give or take, of the last 3. So with that, I say this, Tim, do you like? Because we've seen this before, obviously. This is not a new watch. Do you like Phantasm 4 Oblivion?
I'll say that I mildly like it. It's I liked it more than I remember, not to the extent of 3. Like 3, I was genuinely surprised, where I was like, oh, like I am actually digging this. While as this, I remember not liking, and then I watched it and I was kind of like, okay, it's like it's not great by any means, and I think it is continuing this trend where each sequel isn't bad, but they do get progressively worse. And with this obviously taking the cake, but I mean, there's still good stuff here. Like, you still get. Well,
there is a 5th movie that we're going to get to. I've not seen the 5th movie before, because that was as a recent entry that came out like 2 years ago now, something like that.
I shall save my opinions on that.
Of course you will.
But we'll wait.
But I will say,
I
mean, I'm disappointed the 5th one though wasn't called Phantasm 5 Skyrim.
Okay, I don't know anything about Skyrim. Is that a
the 4th game in that series called Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion?
Okay. Oh, that's a good joke. I didn't get it, but
thanks,
if you get the reference, that is very good.
I'm glad you approved of it once I explained what I was referencing.
Awesome. But I mean, come on, this is you got the tall man, you got the balls, there's some good gore. You got Reggie and stuff, so there's still some good stuff in it. But it definitely, I don't know. I was trying to think if this is like needed. Which I guess, like, if you just left it at 1, that would have been fine. Like, the first one didn't need any sequels, but once you start to go the sequel route, they do set up a kind of a continuing story. So I guess you do need to have this movie to keep that story going. But
I mean, the 3rd movie did end in a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie literally ended with the Reggie, like, up against the wall with all the balls holding him up. Like, not killing him, just holding him there. Like, we end in, like, a sort of unfinished thought.
Yeah. He even mentioned something about that. Like, he said, like, he left me to hang or something.
So so this is definitely the weakest of the 4, I think. There's some interesting ideas. There's some good individual scenes, but I think overall, my biggest problem with it is that there's no actual direction. Like, there's no momentum throughout the film. It just kind of like meanders, and like we occasionally get this like almost like spiritual walkabout stuff with Mike, where he has these flashbacks mixed with going into the tuning fork gates, which lead to like either different times or different dimensions, and he's talking to his dead brother. But it's all very, it's almost like he wanted to do the David Lynch Phantasm movie, but he doesn't actually. Coscarelli is a good director. I don't think he can pull off that. He's not weird enough. It's not as intriguing enough to do that stuff. And then Reggie's plot, like, because Reggie was the main character of the 3rd one. One of my favorite things about the 3rd one is that Mike's kidnapped, and Reggie ends up getting this badass kid, then this the chick Rocky, and it's like this go and find and save Mike, and it has this momentum. 2's got a momentum because they're trying to find the psychic girl, and obviously 1 has its own story, but like I felt like this had no driving. Like, this is what we're aiming to. This is what we're building up to. It was just kind of. Like, I remember the first time I watched it, I wasn't so surprised this time because I'd seen it before. But the first time, I couldn't believe when it cut to the credits at the end. I was shocked that it ended. I was like, "What? That's the ending? We're done?"
Yeah.
Because spoiler alert. Well, not really. We're not actually in spoilers yet, but it does end in a cliffhanger. It ends in like a really big, this story is not finished cliffhanger, and it took another 15 to 16 years to make Phantasm 5.
Yeah, about that.
And it's funny because I was noticing how much older everyone looked in this compared to the footage from the first movie. You know, by the time they get to the fifth one, it's like 35 years. You know, so they're ancient. Like Angus Scrimm, I think, passed away before the fifth one even came out.
Yeah, that was the one thing I do remember. About that is I think you can tell that they had to fill in some stuff like around him with him not being there.
Yeah,
So,
they had some shots of him, but they had to like maybe do reverse shots without him, and that really sucks. It's a shame. And what's sad about it is that I know they were trying to make Phantasm 5 for a long time, so if they'd just done it 10 years earlier when they were supposed to kind of get to it, things would have been different. But hey, so
I also hate to say it, but I mean, this one, it kind of feels pretty low budget.
Oh, it
which,
does.
Like,
I mean, it's not like the rest feel that high budget. I mean, 2 has a higher budget than 1, right? And 3 kind of feels like it's went down a bit again, but it's still fine. It still works for what it's doing. I feel like, because Phantasm 1 does have a pretty low budget, but it works in what it's doing. It uses its budget really well. This one, it feels like, no, we're going to be out in this deserty, rocky area for half the movie, and Reggie's just out on a road, and then like a really rundown motel room, and that's basically all your locations, barring 1 or 2 scenes.
It has like a very, which did make me a little nostalgic, but not enough to get over it. But it did have like a straight to video 90s kind of feel to it.
It does, it absolutely does. And I'm pretty sure it was direct to video, actually. Now you're
I can't imagine if this was in theaters. I can't imagine it was that long.
Hold on. I'm investigating. Yeah, I mean, it was at a film festival, but it was never released in theaters, like for public. Video premiere, October 1998.
But you know what? I have to say, maybe my biggest complaint about this, and I think we brought it up on the other ones too. I'm not sure, but what happened with the soundtrack?
Oh, the soundtrack. All right, okay.
In this series, like the first one has such good music, and then I feel like just each movie gets like less and less to the point where like I barely even notice like any music in this really.
I mean, I noticed here. I don't know if I agree that it's been getting less and less. I think I really like how it changes in 2 because I think it fits the tone change.
I don't remember
because it becomes this more this epic action
Mm-hmm.
version of the theme. And 3 kind of keeps that along. It doesn't use it as much, but I wouldn't even criticize 3's score. This is the first one where I'd probably agree that it kind of feels lacking. Like the theme is there occasionally, but for the most part, it's just this kind of generic creepy noise that they're using, as opposed to anything else. And I feel like there was a desire here to go back to it feeling like a bit more eerie, because 2 and 3 are more actiony, but it does kind of miss the mark in that regard, and it's kind of a shame. And there's some fun sequences here or there, but they're kind of standalone, and the 1 or 2 fun ideas that do come up, it really does feel like whatever the original script for this was, it's got slashed heavily for budget. And even the fact that out of the 90-minute runtime, there's probably a good 20 minutes of like deleted footage from the first movie. And again, that's saving money. It's like, this is footage we already had. This is 20 minutes of shooting, material we don't actually have to do.
Yeah, I feel like even the new scenes in this movie kind of feel like deleted scenes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it goes back to having no momentum throughout. And it's insane to me that they did so well in the first movie with so little, and they ended up with so much extra footage that they never even used. Like, there's scenes in this of like them extra assassination attempts when they try and kill the tall man. This entire hanging sequence, and it's like, man, it's insane. Really cool. This never made it. There's a scene where you first see him arrive in the town in the first movie. It must have been a flashback in the first movie where they first sort of get, the new Undertaker's arriving in the town. Like, there's all these little cool things, and some of them you can sort of tell, like, because the first movie's paced really well, so you get the sense that no, they made the right call. They cut it down to a brisk 90 minutes. But some of the scenes on their own are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But here it does kind of feel like we're patching the movie together because we can only afford to do so much.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, it does seem like that could probably have been what happened. But I mean, I guess I'm glad, that this exists. Like it's like there's enough in here where it's, it doesn't make me mad that like, I had to watch this or anything. It just seems like maybe like a little bit of missed opportunities. Like, yeah, maybe if only there was a little bit more of a budget, maybe a little bit more of a clear direction. This could have been, something a little more along the lines of like, 3 or something where it's like, okay, like this is pretty fun. I like this as opposed to, being a step down. But
Yeah.
Again, though, like I enjoyed it more, than I thought it would. And I would say like as a whole, like, it's still a pretty consistent series. If you compare it to other, franchises, I feel like, there's always a, like a dud in the, the first couple of ones or whatever. But, it's all been pretty solid run so far.
I mean, obviously I've not seen 5 yet, so this is not including that. But I feel like this is the dud, though. If you're going to say one's the dud,
sure,
this is the one because it's the one that feels like it's just kind of cobbled together, and whether that's just
I feel like it's not like as anger-inducing as like some other movies you might see, where it's just like
it does feel a little bit sad though, because it feels like we've got the same people, like Don Coscarelli's still the one doing this, and it feels like he's trying to do something, and he's being shackled, and he can't do what he wants to really, so he's compromising left and right, and it feels like the overall thing at the end just feels a bit weak because of it. And it's insane to me because 4 years after this, Bubba Hotep came out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And it's like, man,
that's great.
Which, by the way, didn't you say Hellboy was like 3 years later? Which would have been 2001.
No. I thought I said 5 for 2003.
That makes sense because that's why I said you were a year out. But for some reason now I'm thinking you said 3. I'm probably just misremembering. No, we shall move on. We shall move on. I'm just trying to think of more things to make fun of Tim for. To be honest, I'm going back to old material. But it's just strange. And Bubba Hotep, yeah, it's a low budget movie, but it's a quality low budget. You never feel like it's skimping corners. Whereas this, it kind of does. It kind of feels weird. It's like it's almost convenient that the plot of the movie is that the tall man keeps emptying out towns because there's almost no other characters to cast.
Almost, yeah. Like it almost like feels like a weird like a. The first movie feels like it's a very small scale, while this one it's kind of starting to feel like bigger. Like, oh yeah, like he's wiping out entire towns. Like, how far is he going? How much can this spread?
Yeah, but you never really see any of it. You just kind of hear it mentioned, and that's pretty much all it is. Because Reggie's plot is he just like after he has like this encounter with like a zombified cop that the tall man sent after him. And that's a bit of a fun sequence with a fight. But then, like, he runs into a girl, because we have to have the running joke that he's a horn dog. And he tries to hit on the girl, and...
Now, is this going to be getting into, like, spoilery territory? Should we issue the warning?
We can in a minute. I just wanted to say, though, before we get any further on what actually happens, is that this entire plot with this girl feels like just a tacked-on thing so that Reggie has something to do until he gets to the other characters later on.
Or someone to do.
I don't know, and the character's so worthless. And actually, before we move on to spoilers, I do want to bring up something, and it is I was about to talk about it because I thought you were going to bring it up when you mentioned the music.
Oh, okay.
Is that once again we've just kind of like ignored every other character from the previous film. Like, what happened to the kid? We saw him get grabbed at the end of the movie, but so did Mike at the end of the first one. Like, where is he? No one even mentions him. No one mentions that he's dead. No one mentions that, oh, we sent him back somewhere safe, or because he shouldn't be involved in this, which would be weird given what happened in the last one. Now, I get it. It's been 4 years. The kid's aged by, like, now he'll be like 15 probably, and he'll look way different. But it's just such a weird thing, because it was the same after the second movie, and I still enjoyed the third one. But the main love interest, the psychic girl, in that.
Oh yeah.
Is like, where's she? What's happening? It's that for some reason every other character seems to keep getting ignored. And I thought it was funny how the girl that Reggie meets in this, it's like she doesn't even make it that far. It's just like they basically admit early on, they're like, oh yeah, she's just here for this little plot, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of bugs me. It feels like they're just forgetting everyone else.
And I feel like it's such a weird series that like plays on like really strange stuff, like other dimensions and like dreams and psychics and stuff, that I feel like you could put like some weird explanation on there, like you could like I don't know, talk about like how the tall man's affecting like reality or something like that. Like I would buy if they tried to use that as an explanation, but they don't even really try.
Nah, so we'll give a spoiler warning then. We'll talk about spoilers and stuff. So I guess just to wrap up Reggie's side of things, because it's basically all it is. You have the cop fight where he has some one-liners. He fights this zombie cop and blows up the car. It's a fun little sequence.
I'm sorry, but so there's the actual cop or whatever is like in the trunk of the car.
He's all mangled. Yeah, he's kind of like a pretzel and dead.
But wasn't he moving though? Wasn't he still alive?
He was kind of like making little spasms, kind of.
Okay, yeah, because I just thought it was funny that Reggie blows up the car, and I was like, well, I think that guy was still alive in the trunk, but.
Yeah, but he has a one-liner where he's like, "I really hate cops," as he does something.
That's true too. Yeah.
The best part of this though is when the zombie cop's on the roof and he's got the shotgun through the roof and he's just kind of firing it as he's like mouthing off at him. But that was a fun little sequence. It feels kind of like this is here because they needed some sort of horror action scene near the start.
Exactly.
And it's not actually related to anything. It's not actually setting anything up. It's not setting up the idea that Reggie's being pursued as well, because he's not. After this, I guess the girl is, I suppose. But again, even though I guess he kind of is being pursued, and that there's two people from the tall man after him, it's still just like it's just stuff for him to do, and it's basically also like, well, whilst we're doing all this weird dream stuff with Mike, we'll actually have the proper Phantasm style scenes with Reggie, but they feel so throwaway, like they're not important, that it's not a big, it's not a big deal. So he meets the girl, he saves her from the car blowing up, more cars exploding, and they end up spending a night in...
Not the last one. You're talking about... you're talking about the one with the girl.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. And they go to this...
I think doesn't she even say something like he's like, come on, we gotta go before the car explodes, and she's like, doesn't that only happen in the movies?
And then it explodes and he turns and goes, yeah I think that too.
I love the reason why her car is all flipped over and explodey is because she saw a turtle in the road and swerved to get out of the way.
What can we afford to rent from the pet store for a day? They've got a deal on a turtle.
Yeah.
It'll be a turtle then.
You notice how nice she is as opposed to the tall man who was it a dog that he just runs over in the middle of the road?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But this is all to gain Reggie's trust, to lure him into a trap. So they go to this rundown motel. It's abandoned, right? It's just abandoned. And he cracks some jokes about it as they go in. He's like, well, I've got some sleeping bags and stuff. We can just sort of stay here. And then somehow the next time we cut back here, though, there's lights on. And they're in a fairly clean looking bed. It's like all of a sudden, there's still some stuff in the background that looks like it's run down, but it becomes this far more habitable building. And he's lighting some candles to imply as if the candles are lighting the scene, but it's far too bright for the candles to be lighting the room. It's far too bright. So they're kind of cheating a little bit. I don't know what the point of that was, but basically the whole thing is he tries to come on to her, she turns him down. He sort of has a nightmare where he wakes up in a cemetery and he sees Mike is the new tall man, which is kind of sort of feeding into what tall man's maybe trying to do with Mike. But he wakes up, and the big set piece ending to this is that our boobs,
our boobs
have turned into the Phantasm balls, and they come flying out of her chest and try and kill him. Reggie gets stabbed in the hand with one of them, and that's your scene. That's your fun, wacky scene. And again, it's just fine, but it's I feel like we've done this kind of thing before. Not the boobs thing specifically, but it's here's just a typical Phantasm scene because you feel like you should have one at this point in the movie.
Yeah. But I like that, man. I like with Reggie that it just feels like he shouldn't be like going up against these people. Like I feel like even like the tall man has like some resentment where like he feels like, you know, Mike and Jody are these like kind of like worthy you know, enemies, but like Reggie is just like this kind of like buffoon that like is stumbling into this stuff but always kind of comes out ahead.
Also,
which I don't think is funny.
There's a weird thing with Reggie's character in this, actually, where early on he actually is basically giving up. He's like, I'm not going to even find Mike. He's on his own. Like, I'm giving up. I'm done. He's actually ready to abandon him. And it's actually like the ghost of Mike, or sorry, make it ghost of Jody, that comes to see him in the ball. Which turns out later on he's actually evil and working for the tall man. So I'm not even sure how this tracks. But he like convinces him that no, you have to go save him, and you have to be. Like, I guess maybe it's implying that even though he's still kind of being controlled by the tall man, it's still part of him in there. So,
yeah,
I don't know, but he tells him that he has to go after him, and there's this weird like flash to how things could have been, and it's the three of them in present day age, like, you know, playing guitar next to a sunset and drinking beers. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, this entire franchise is based around the friendship between these three guys. It's kind of bizarre. But
there's like a couple like super cheesy scenes like that, like the flashback where he steals the ice cream from Reggie's truck.
Hey, Reggie, do you remember that one perfect day? It was the day before he came, and you see like young Mike like run up behind the ice cream truck and like just like steal an ice cream out the back.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to be like. Remember that one perfect day? Oh, you mean that day you stole from me? Yeah,
and belittled my entire business and made me feel less than a man.
I had to like explain to like my employers why.
Doesn't even have employers. Also, I like at the start because Reggie's kind of narrating the previously on, which is essentially what it is, where he's explaining what's going on. He says, I was an ice cream man by trade, but now I'm a warrior. And I'm like, does anyone who works, you know, in the ice cream industry consider themselves an ice cream man by trade? Like, I feel like a trade's when it's actually a trade skill. Like, you know, you learn to be a plumber. You have to learn a skill set to be a plumber. Whereas, and I'm not, you know, obviously you can rise up and you can be the executive of an ice cream company. There's lots of things to do in an ice cream company. But I feel like saying that you're an ice cream man is a really weird phrase for someone to say.
Well, I guess we'll find out once we actually watch Ice Cream Man starring Clint Howard.
Oh boy, that has to happen one day. Admittedly, yeah, that's definitely something that's happening.
We gotta see if we can find like enough. Maybe we'll do like some if we can find like enough sweet themed horror movies, we can have a vote.
A vote for ice cream and sweet and various candy related, because I'm but this Candy Man for a start, even though it's not actually anything to do with candy. It's just what's his name?
Jawbreaker, maybe.
I'm sure there's probably
Gretel, Witch Hunters.
I'm sure there's something. There'll be something like, oh, this sweet girl is a killer or something like that. So it'll be like, oh, she's as sweet as, I don't know, apple pie or
Skittle.
something. Skittle. I do enjoy a Skittle.
What is going on with all these tropical flavored candies?
Oh, I don't know. Do you know what? I hate when someone offers me Skittles and they hand me something that's not the regular flavor. I'm like, what? I don't want. First of all, I am not a fan of sour like sweets. I don't like the sour stuff. So if you have me sour Skittles, I'm throwing them back in your face, and I'm going to like go after your firstborn, basically. Like, how dare you besmirch me like that? And then there's the other ones that are okay, like this, like all the berry flavors. It's like, okay, this is fine, but
those are alright. Yeah.
It's not as good as the regular ones. But
I don't mind the sour stuff. It kind of just depends on how sour. But yeah, I don't know. Lately, I've just been trying to find like some candy, and like, I'm a big fan of like Swedish Fish, and I do like Sour Patch Kids and stuff. But I keep finding like the tropical flavored kind, and I don't understand why these are here. I just want the regular kind.
Recently, actually, it was basically peanut butter cups, but it was Butterfinger, like branded peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
Right, I had those, and they were nice. I like Butterfingers, like peanut butter cups. So, it's a fine combination to have. But then I happened to grab another flavor. It was like peanut butter cups, but the stuff inside it wasn't peanut butter. It was like coconut stuff. No, it was alright. It was. I mean, I don't like it as much as the peanut butter, but it was. I don't really
like coconut.
I like coconut, so I'm fine with that. But that was interesting. There's an interesting different flavor that.
Yeah.
I like that they're experimenting. because sometimes you do get some nice wackier things.
I just like it just always feels like such a gamble, because I feel like every time I go to the store, like I like to get like one little like treat thing, and then it's hard to pass up the new like exotic flavor, and then if you get stuck with something crappy,
I feel like you go with the thing you like based on your other likes and dislikes. Like, I like coconut, so I'll try the coconut flavored thing. I like peanut butter, so whenever they put peanut butter in a thing, I'm usually for it. No,
I mean I agree, but then you get something like the Swedish fish Oreos, and you're like, these are disgusting.
By the way, can I just say, when it comes to Oreo cookies, the entire point of an Oreo cookie, which I do enjoy, for me, is the flavor of the cream in the Oreo cookie. So replacing that with any other flavor is like, what is the point of this? I could go buy another type of cookie that has a filling. Like, I don't need Oreos to do different flavors. The entire reason I like them is the flavor of the Oreo cream.
Yeah, there's two that I like quite a bit, which is the red velvet and the cinnamon ones. But yeah, other than that, like some of the stuff they're getting just way too crazy for it. Like, it's enough. It's too many.
I don't know, for me, that's the point, because I'm not there for the actual cookie part. The cookie part's just a generic bit of cookie. Like, it's the cream filling. That's what makes it an Oreo.
Yeah.
Anyway, this concludes the cookie and candy portion of the show, and we can get back on to Phantasm 4: Oblivion. Good, Tim?
Yeah, I'm good.
So back to the movie then. We have the new ideas that are presented. Basically, the idea that the tall man was once a normal person, long time ago, and he became the tall man. He was an undertaker.
Kind of torn on this.
He was an undertaker who became obsessed with going into, like, wherever dead people go, and he obsessed over building, like, essentially the prototype of the tuning fork gate, and he traveled in, and we get to see, like, Mike sees all this and kind of like a living in the flashback kind of thing, where the original tall man can't see him, at least not later on. The first scene he meets somebody he actually talks to him. I guess it depends on whatever the writer decides on that scene. But at least that scene later on, he doesn't actually know he's there, at least until he comes back through the gate, because he walks through as a normal man. Was it Jebediah Morningside is his name? And
Love that name.
And it kind of ties into that photograph in the first movie. You see it again where he sort of turns and looks, but he comes back out as a tall man. So I like parts of this.
It's really funny if, like, they go back in time and he's just like a really short guy.
I like the part of it because I think the first time I watched this, I probably assumed that the movie was going to turn into like a time travel movie where the whole plan, because he even says Mike says at one point, like, okay, we can't kill
your kids.
It's about your kids, Marty. Like,
it's about your kids, tall man.
But at one point he says, like, oh, we can't kill the tall man, but can we stop him from ever existing? So I thought, they go back to before he became the tall man and either kill him or convince him not to go through with it, and kind of erase it all from the timeline, and that would be the big ending to the franchise. That would be like them fixing everything that he's ever done.
Yeah. Or interrupt his parents when they're having sex.
That's also possible. That's even further back in the timeline. Because that's the thing. Like, obviously Angus Scrimm, he's aged 20 years since the first movie. So in this,
love that name too.
Yeah, in this flashback where he's supposed to be before everything else, he's like older than all of his original appearances as the tall man. But hey ho.
One thing I did love about this is like, I feel like you got to see another side of Angus Scrimm, and I think he's like a good actor, and I thought it was cool to see like
that earlier scene when he's on the porch and when he first finds out he used to be a person. Like, he wasn't just always a tall man. He didn't just come from this dimension where they're sending all the slaves, the dead people to be slaves. He was a person, and he's like, should I offer you some lemonade, son? I'll get you some lemonade. And he sits him down, and he's all friendly. It's very different. So I'm mixed on it, because I feel like the potential was there to go down that path, and this is how they end the franchise. And because there's this idea that comes up where Mike can control the gates. He actually conjures multiple gates, presumably to different times and dimensions, and he can travel between them. And I imagine the reason why he can do this is because he's kind of like halfway along the process to becoming the new tall man. Because they started doing the thing in the last movie. He's got the chrome inside his head. He builds his own ball in the out the car engine. He builds his own Phantasm ball that he attacks the tall man with at one point. So this idea that he's able to fight him because he's kind of like halfway to becoming him is very interesting. So I think there's a lot of good ideas here. Like, I actually like all of these ideas, at least most of them. Yeah. So
it doesn't really feel like it's explored that much.
I agree. It feels like they hit on him enough that I'm intrigued, and then the movie just kind of ends, and Mike seemingly dies. You know, because Mike gets killed. They explode the tall man in the car, but then, you know, a new one of them just walks out the gate, and that happened in the third movie as well. We see that if you kill him, a new copy will just come out the gate, and the end of the movie is Reggie basically grabbing his gun because he just got there. He got there. He fought off some of the druid characters, and then he hugs Mike. They have this sweet moment. Tall man shows up. It all goes down. Mike seems to be dead or dying, and Reggie picks up his quadruple barrel shotgun and says, "You know what, Mike? I'm getting him for you. I'm getting him." And he jumps through the portal, and that's your cliffhanger. We get one final scene. It goes into like a Mike's eye, and we see like one final flashback where he just you know, he gets picked up by Reggie, and they're riding in the van, and it's like a sort of sweet, hey, this is how they used to be together kind of thing. But it ends in a total cliffhanger. Like, Reggie's like, "I'm going to go get him for you, Mike," and he goes out of the gate, and it feels like the movie's just starting and it ends.
Yeah, like it's a very strange, like it almost feels like, you know, if there's like a big comic book event or something, and they'll have like the little prologue issue that like sets a bunch of stuff up, but also like has some like flashbacky stuff. Like, it kind of feels like that.
It feels like the first act to what the movie's supposed to be. You set up the ideas of the time travel, of going back to the past. Tall man was a real person. Mike's becoming a tall man. It feels like, at the very least,
I'm becoming a tall man, or no?
It feels like, at the very least, Reggie jumping out of that portal should be the end of Act 2. You know, Mike's died then, and Reggie goes in, and the third act is Reggie hunting the tall man throughout time and space, right? That's what it feels like it should be ending with.
Yeah.
And it says it's a cliffhanger, and it feels kind of cheap because it's like, but no, the movie's just getting going. This is finally starting to get interesting, and then it cuts to the end, and it's credits. It's like,
especially when there's like you know, again, like, I don't want to sound like I didn't like a lot of stuff in the movie, but there was definitely a lot of stuff that felt like it wasn't super needed. Of course, you know, going back again to the flashbacks, which are cool, but not really necessary. And then,
well, the one that was interesting for me is the one where they kind of the characters in the flashbacks actually kind of hear dialogue that's happening in present day.
Oh yeah.
Where they hear something that Mike says in the future, and then they hear something that Reggie says in the future, and they actually react to it. And I'm like, man, what was this scene originally? Because obviously this wasn't written like this. You know, when they made the first movie, like, they obviously found this footage and went, "Oh, we can use this. We can have it them reacting to it as if." And I like this scene because it was kind of like advancing the idea that if these gates are traveling between times, like, even back then, there's like almost like little slices or echoes of the future, like, bleeding through. I was like, this is a cool idea. Again, it doesn't really get explored enough, but I thought it was effective in the scene itself. It intrigued me. There's a lot of intriguing ideas, but like I say, it ends just as it feels like it's getting going. So, you know, it's disappointing. It's not the worst thing ever, but it does meander, and it does feel like it's just cutting so many corners because it has no money. It really does feel like it's just ultra cheap, and that's why this is the movie we have.
Yeah, but I mean, again, maybe it's just because, you know, that first movie is so strong that, you know, as not great as it is, like, you know, I'm still like along for the ride as long as I'm seeing the tall man, I'm seeing the balls, you know, Reggie's doing his thing. That it's hard to like be mad at it.
We're already connected to the characters, and the characters are still the characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know, you care about the mythology, so when they're hitting at more stuff, it is definitely interesting. So if you're a fan of the franchise, you do get some stuff out of it. I think as a movie, though, it kind of fails.
Oh yeah, sure.
So
I agree with that.
It's in this weird place. It's unfortunate because, you know, as much as they've declined maybe slightly in quality, like, 1's fantastic, 2's pretty great, 3's solid good, and then this one we're into kind of murky territory of like, it's, you know, it's got a lot of problems. So, you know, I've not seen 5. I'm really hoping that I come out of it feeling like they've upswung a bit, but we'll see. We'll see.
And I mean, I still say, good on them though for actually making it. Like, I'm assuming that, yeah, a lot of the problems probably were like budget stuff that they had to cut around or whatever. But it's cool that they didn't let it stop them.
I will say this. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I will say this though, given how hard it must have been to get this made and how much budget they had to like work around, I do think it was a little bit arrogant to end on a cliffhanger and assume
Sure.
they were going to get to do another one. I think, given how tough this seemed to be to get finished, they should have seen this as the last one and ended it accordingly.
Yeah, it's a bummer that it came out when it did, because if this was what 10, 12 years later, then you could have had stuff like Kickstarter or Netflix taking the movie or something, like these different
Yeah.
outlets that help, like these cult stuff. I wonder if that would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah. Do you know, I wouldn't say no to a Phantasm TV show, actually.
Oh, brother, I'm there.
I'm just thinking about it. I feel there's enough mythology introduced that they could really draw out over like a few seasons of like exploring all these ideas. I think there's enough there.
Yeah, I think so. I would. I don't know if they've ever actually done this, but I would read a Phantasm comic book, like, because like, yeah, like I'm just like a little, I think they actually recently put out a Bubba Hotep book, but I didn't check it out. But yeah, like, usually licensed stuff isn't always the greatest, but if it was like Coscarelli writing it, because he seems to kind of be involved in everything with this franchise, like, and just kind of filling in some of those ideas and stuff like that. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, no, I think that's yeah. I mean, I don't think there is, but I've never heard of a Phantasm comic book. But it wouldn't surprise me if there was like one small one somewhere.
Yeah, like it's funny. I've been listening to a Halloween podcast.
About the franchise Halloween or about the holiday Halloween?
The franchise.
And they just talk
It's,
about Halloween. That's every episode.
Well, it's only like they're doing each movie one a month, leading up until the new one.
Okay.
So but they do like really deep dives, and they're these people I enjoy a lot. It's called Halloweenies. It's a good podcast, but they keep bringing up this Halloween comic book that I've never heard of, and it's like when they're starting to talk about it, I was like, oh, it sounds really cool. I want to check it out. But of course, it's like one of those things that is like some no name imprint that's just like lost to the ages now, that it's like,
not
unless you want to pay like,
so you can't just get it digitally. Yeah.
so like, unless you want to pay like $300 for like 5 comic books. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised me if there was something on like a real small label like that or something.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So I mean, it's a shame
I'm
to
excited
be.
for that Halloween movie.
Oh yeah, did you see the poster, Tim? The poster for it?
Poster looks good.
It looks potentially good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you read this. I think there was like a description of people that saw like a trailer or some scenes.
Yeah,
or
it was CinemaCon. They showed a trailer. Yeah.
And there were. I heard some people talking about what happens in the trailer, and it didn't sound like it didn't make me like super excited. But I mean, it's still that's such a hard thing to someone describing something that's not even the movie, like but I'm still really excited for it.
John Carpenter is confirmed that he's scoring it now, though. That's official.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
So good.
That's fun. But to get back to Oblivion, just to wrap this up, I guess. I think we're pretty much done talking about the movie. There's not a whole.
You want to talk about candy more or something? Jesus Christ.
We can if you want, Tim. I'm not against it.
Let's save that for I don't know, Connor's Candy or whatever, some new show coming to the.
Oh dear. So I guess we'll rate the movie, Tim. As the cat does a drive by. So what would you give Phantasm 4 Oblivion out of 10?
I hate to do it, but I mean, I'm gonna have to go like a little lowish, but I'm not gonna be too harsh, but I think I'm gonna give it a 5.5. I wish I could give it more, because I do like most of the stuff in this movie, but like you said, it doesn't feel like a complete film. Like, the stuff is cool, but it doesn't necessarily work like as a real satisfying movie. And if it wasn't just the fact that I just love these characters and stuff, it'd be a lot lower. But yeah, I think 5.5 just above, that kind of middle point.
Yeah, I think I'll be just a smidge harsher and say a straight 5. I think I still like parts of it. I still think it intrigues me. I like the ideas in play, but as a functioning finished film, it really falls flat and doesn't. It ends when it should just be getting going. All these different things, and you feel the budget constraints. I think there's too much to criticize to give it any higher than that for me. But at the same time, I can't go to say it's complete terrible either, because it's not like the scenes in their own function well enough. Obviously, the cast are back and playing the character. Well, that you think they're good, because Reggie's not a great actor, but he does Reggie well enough. Like it was fun, and so on. So but yeah, 5 out of 10. So I feel like I think, what did I give the first one? You gave it a 10, and I gave it
the first one is one of my all-time faves.
I give it a 9, 9.5, and I give 2 like an 8, 8.5. Then I give it a 7 to like number 3. So
I think we're both around the same ballpark. Yeah.
So it's just this seeing it sort of just decline into, and 7 was still good, so that's fine. But then this is like, okay, now we're in murky territory, and it's kind of a shame. But hey ho, that's Phantasm 4.
Actually, I mean, funny enough, I guess also kind of a similar trajectory to Alien, the Alien movies.
I think both Alien and Aliens are a 10, personally, but
okay.
I think Alien and Aliens is a flat line right at the top, and then there's like a sudden, drop at 3, and then I'd say it kind of slightly picks up for Resurrection.
I think I like 3 a little better than Resurrection.
I think it's a taste thing, to be honest, at that point. They both have a lot of flaws, and they're not great movies, but admittedly, once you get to Alien Covenant, you're in absolute turd territory. You're in like, oh my god, what are they doing to my franchise?
Dear God, yes.
Stop Ridley Scott now. Stop him. He's ruining it all. No.
Release the Snyder Cut.
And I thought Prometheus... And I thought Prometheus was okay the first time I saw it in the theater. I think I was just so excited for a Ridley Scott Alien Universe movie. Watching it again before Covenant, I really disliked it, and then Covenant I thought was just complete trash. After there was like a promising 20-minute period at the start, and then it just went.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I agree. I mean, I think unfortunately Scott, I just don't think he wants to do Alien movies. I think he wants to do like, these kind of big heady robot AI kind of movies, which is totally fine.
Just do that. Just do it.
Did you read the new Alien comic that came out, Dust to Dust? I heard good things, but
I did not. I'm basically just waiting for it in trade. I have a hard time keeping up monthly with the non-superhero stuff, so I just kind of wait. There was an Alien sale though for Alien Day just a week or so ago.
Yes.
And I did pick up the first 3 of the omnibus that Dark Horse do, the older comics, and I grabbed both volumes of Defiance, which I have actually read a good chunk of before. It's really good.
The Brian Wood one?
Yeah, it's really good stuff. It's a really interesting premise that makes sense as an evolution of the Alien franchise. And I also grabbed the Stoko one,
Dead Orbit,
which is I've also read that. It is pretty good.
So, I love that one. Yeah. His art, anything he draws.
It's perfect for Alien. It's perfect for that moody, dark ship.
I imagine you read his Godzilla stuff.
I don't. I have it on Comixology. I bought it when it was on sale, so I'll go to get to
it's
it.
Really good.
Half Century of War. So it's on the to read list.
That, and also he only did the first issue, but Godzilla Goes to Hell I really, really liked.
I think I got that as well. I think that was the 2 Godzilla books I bought when IDW had a sale like 6 months ago. It's been a while. They've been sitting there a while.
Is there a Godzilla Day? I'm surprised there isn't.
There should be. I don't know what.
There has to be like some. Yeah. You're like.
What's Japan's big national holiday? Because I feel like that could be Godzilla Day for the rest of the world.
Sure. You know, they actually I think they really like Thanksgiving. Wait.
Sure.
And
I mean, technically, he was a metaphor for the nuclear bomb, but I feel like it's really morbid. It's really morbid to say, "Oh, we'll do it in the anniversary of Hiroshima." That's really weird. So let's not celebrate Ether on that day.
Just do whenever the Matthew Broderick movie came out, which I think that would have been 98 as well. Is that right alongside Phantasm 4?
Yeah, yeah. I was. What do you mean as well? The original was 54. Tim, what are you talking about? But yeah,
What a time
1998.
going to the theaters, seeing Phantasm 4, and then sneaking into Godzilla. Ooh,
Except we
those were
already
the days.
established that Phantasm 4 was direct to video, but yeah, other than that, yeah, your little story is phenomenal. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. It's funny that this came out in '98 because I feel like '98 was a time when I was getting into movies. I was young, sure, but I was going to the theater a lot, and it's just funny to me that I'd never heard of Phantasm till I was like 16, 17. So. And because the first couple were relatively quite old, I always just assumed that the sequels were also old as well. And then it kind of shocked me. I was like, oh shit, the last one was only like, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So, it's a thing.
Yeah,
And now the last one was like 2 years ago, even though it's 2018. So.
Not sure when I first got into it. I think maybe it might have been probably at some point when it came out on like DVD. I probably, because I'm thinking like, I love Boba Hotep because of Bruce Campbell, and then I'm guessing at some point I either found out or saw Phantasm by the guy that did that, and then I think that's what led me
Yeah, I
to
think
it,
I saw Boba Hotep first as well. Yeah. I love Boba Hotep. That's definitely an episode in the future. Boba Hotep's happening at some point. I can promise you that. But I guess that wraps us up. Should I tell you things? Should I promote things? The vote for the month for patrons will be up when this episode goes up. We've not actually, at the time of recording, it's not up yet. Me and Tim are about to sit and decide what the vote's going to be, so that's going to happen off air once we stop recording. And then, so you can check out that. If you want to support the show, of course, in the channel, that's where you go.
Wait, do we know what won the last vote?
We do. I mean,
Can we announce it?
I don't know if I remember it. Oh, it's been announced on the Patreon.
I can't afford that.
I can't remember. Hold on, let me check. Since you've asked it, I should tell them. But yeah, no, we did announce it. There was, it's a thing. Stall, Tim. I'm looking.
I think one of the funnest things about Patreon is when you can vote for your
Oh my god!
favorite. Did you not find it yet?
I've got it now, but it's just, listening to you try and stall is absolutely shocking. Shocking. The winner was Graduation Day.
Oh, okay.
Because we had like an end of school year kind of theme, so Graduation Day as slasher movie is what's won the vote. So that'll be coming sometime up later in the month on an episode.
I'll have a little more insight into that than you, but cool.
Are you implying I didn't graduate?
Yeah.
I'll have you know I did graduate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's see that diploma.
Well, I graduated university. You don't really graduate high school where I grew up, so.
Well, maybe you didn't, but I'm sure most people did.
All right. Okay. But Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but the hats you wear at graduation are really expensive, so the whole thing where you throw them in the air is complete bullshit because you don't want to damage them if you're renting them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even. I did have one of the hats. I don't remember what I did with it.
Shoved up your ass.
Yeah, probably.
I'm gonna take a shit in this to just put just to commemorate that I have now left high school. I can shit in my graduation hat.
Yeah.
So that's coming up later in the month. Check out Patreon. We'll be back next week with something. I don't know what yet. Maybe it'll be Graduation Day. Maybe that'll be the next movie we do. I don't know. Maybe it'll be something else. We'll decide that after we start recording too. Everything's by the ear, people. But we will be back next week. And well, Tim's not told me that we can't do an episode next week. I assume we are.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Good. Right.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do 5 episodes.
Oh dear God.
I'm joking, guys. I'm not promising 5 episodes next week. Oh dear. Alright, that's us. That's been Scrimm's After Midnight. Like, subscribe, get us on the Twitters at mails_fuzz. You can get me at Wibble89, you can get Tim at Tim Vargulish, and that is everything. That is Scrimm's After Midnight. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.